Meeting of the Lathrup Village Planning Commission to order for Tuesday, September 17th. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll move on to our roll call.
Roll call. Chair Piotrowski.
Here.
Vice Chair Kopus. Secretary Hammond.
Present.
Board Member Hulieza. Board Member Cantor. Board Member Stansberry.
Here.
And Board Member Thompson.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Okay.
Make a motion to excuse the Commissioners Cantor, Kopus, and Hulieza from today's meeting.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? None? Let the record show that the missing members have been excused for today's meeting. So we'll move on to next item on the agenda, the approval of the agenda. If there are any comments or suggestions or modifications that we need to make, now would be the time.
Looks good to me.
So we'll entertain a motion for approval, and
So moved.
Second.
those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay. Agenda is approved. Move on to the approval of the meeting minutes for the regular meeting of August 20th, 2019. Everyone has had a chance to review the meeting minutes. If there are any comments or corrections that need to be noted for the record, we'll entertain them at this time. Otherwise, a motion to approve the minutes as they are written.
Make a motion to approve as written.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Hearing none, the meeting minutes are approved. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. If there's anyone in the public that would like to address the commission on the items that are not on the agenda. Seeing any at this time, we'll move on to new business and the comprehensive plan update.
Good evening. I handed out for you a couple of things today. The first is the executive summary from the current 2014 master plan. I know you all have it, but I thought it might be helpful just to have it handy in case you didn't have the full document with you from the 5 years ago, the current plan, just in case we have any questions about it. What I thought we would do tonight is just let you know where we are in terms of the steps and the stages, and then go over a little bit of some of the data that we've collected so far, and also go over a little bit of the joint meeting, just some of the highlights from that, and then talk about what comes next. So we'll do that.
Okay.
So let's see. So the stages that we're at right now is really the beginning stages of the comprehensive plan update. And just to refresh your memory, that's the master plan, the downtown plan, which will focus on the village center area and the Southfield Road commercial corridor, and the recreation plan. So there are 3 documents. We're doing them concurrently, and it'll really be a way to demonstrate how all of these things fit together in terms of making Lathrup Village a vibrant, successful, healthy community. The early stage is data collection, plan preparation. We're required by state law to have notices of intent to plan go out, and I believe those have gone out.
Those went out at
Yes.
the beginning of August.
Excellent.
About August.
Yes. It's just a formality. We notify all the adjacent communities, the adjacent community, and the other reviewing agencies, which include Oakland County, SEMCOG, and
We had MDOT, we
Yeah.
had SMART, SEMCOG.
about,
I know there was a couple more, but I'm
Yeah, it's
blanking
about
on it.
6 or
I think
7.
It wasn't a whole lot.
yeah. We let them know that we're doing this and that when we get ready to send out a draft, we advise them up front that we'll be sending that to them electronically, that we won't be sending them a printed copy of a draft plan. And that if they have any issues, they can let us know. But in terms of data collection, we are looking at demographics, and we are also building the base maps. I didn't bring the maps with me today, but we'll have those to share. There really wasn't much to say other than here's your maps. But in terms of demographics, we've started to do an assessment looking at, and we're primarily using the data, 2017 data from the American Community Survey, which is part of the US Census. You'll see in the material that I give you tonight, we're comparing it with 2012 data. This is all estimated data. Our last master plan in 2014 used 2010 census data. Unfortunately, we won't have good census data for at least another year and a half to 2 years by the time that's completed. But we do use the estimated data as it's available and taking it with a little bit of a grain of salt, knowing that these are estimates. For a community that is about the population of Lathrup Village, about 4,000 people, there are some numbers that aren't quite accurate to the level of the specific, especially when they get real small. So there might be some things that we say, you know, we're not really sure that's right. Can we explore that in a little bit more detail? So there may be things that we're able to identify through other means. And so we'll kind of watch that as we go. So we'll have that, and then our next step will start to be the analysis. So today's just sort of a snapshot of where we are. But in the analysis portion, we'll look at the corridor assessment and the downtown assessment. That'll be, our team will come out and we'll walk the corridor and we'll make observations. And then we're also doing a little bit of traffic and parking, and then the market assessment will begin as well. And our partners at the Chesapeake Group will be conducting that. They will be updating the market study that they did for the city in 2014. So that's probably enough of a start. Once we get some data collected and we start to do some analysis, then it'll be more of the Planning Commission's role about diving into some of these things and asking some questions and looking at our goals and objectives from the last plan, seeing what still is feeling like it's in sync and what might need to be adjusted. And then if there's any other strategies that we want to incorporate other than what we have had in the past. So that's what we'll be working on. So I did this presentation that I handed out because I felt I didn't want to throw off our the television production by throwing in a PowerPoint at the last minute. So these slides will be available electronically, and we can post them on the city's website as well. We do have a page, I believe, do we have a page on the website yet for the master plan?
Yes, we do.
Excellent, so this will go there. And any questions that you might have. So it's really, the first few pages are just, are discussing population. So it's just general population. You'll note, like on page 3, we have 2012 data first. And we have just the total population, and the next page would be the 2017 estimates. And so according to the estimates, it looks like the population has risen a smidge, and that the median age has actually dropped a little bit, which is kind of interesting. We can look on the next page and see the age group breakdown, where we put those things together, the 2012 data in orange and the 2017 estimated data in blue. You'll see that the data suggests that the younger segments have seen a little bit of an increase in population, and the older segments have had a little bit of a decrease, except for the 85+ segment. This again might be something that we want to explore a little bit to see if this is a good representation of what's happening in the community. You'll note, excuse me, on the next page, there's a racial breakdown just to show the changes of demographics over the last 5 years. We can go back and talk about any of these as you want. I'll just kind of walk through them first. We do have from SEMCOG, the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, their projections up into 2045, where they show a little bit of a decline still in population. That tends to be because household sizes get smaller, and when we're built out effectively in terms of housing, So if our housing units are the same, but our population, household size is decreasing, our population would decrease a little bit. So we might expect to see that. Especially with the next one on page 8, which would be the breakdown by age. And so in that case, that you would see that SEMCOG is projecting those older age segments to be increasing. And that is consistent with what we understand is happening not only regionally, but across the state and across the country as well, that our population is aging. And so I think that'll be something that we'll want to talk a little bit about. You can see that the median family income on page 9 has risen from 2012, which we would expect. 2012 was still very much part of the recession. And then you can see a little bit of the breakdown over married couples, families, those with children, female head of household, and some of those changes as well. The next page, on page 10, shows the comparison between 2012 and 2017, where you can start to see that the shift towards the higher median household incomes, more of the population has that as we're moving into those higher brackets, which is good. Compared to 2012, which again was not a great time. I think I'm going to skip over the third, the income on poverty status on page 11 for now, but we might come back to that later. Housing, the year the structure is built, this is kind of an interesting graphic that shows when the bulk of the housing was built. Each box is proportionate to the number of units in that age bracket. So you can see that the most of the housing was built really before 1940, which we already knew, but it's an interesting way to break down that graph and then start to think about, well, what do those what are the characteristics of that type of housing? Things built pre-war or post-war, but do we have first floor living space if we're thinking about an aging population? Do we have the ability, do homeowners have the opportunity to have first floor living where they have a bedroom, a bathroom, kitchen, maybe laundry facilities on their main levels? And that might be something that we want to look into a little bit. What is the, how are the homeowners able to care for these older homes, and are there any additional resources that might be needed? Especially if we think about some of the historic homes in the city. Is there a role for the Historic District Commission to play in offering, to be a hub of resources and information about maintaining those homes? And how do we encourage renovation and modifications consistent with what folks need as they get older maybe, or do we need to accommodate for the younger segment as well? Do we need to accommodate for families? And how do we do that in a way that's appropriate with the houses? On page 13, and I think this one we might really want to look into a little bit more too, that shows the percentage of owner-occupied housing and renter-occupied housing. And it actually has, the amount of owner-occupied housing is actually increased to 94%, which is really high. We know we don't have an extensive number of multifamily dwelling units here in the city, but also we would expect to see some single-family homes included in renter-occupied housing. But this is suggesting that the neighborhoods are largely owner-occupied, which I think is kind of interesting. And something that we may want to look into, is that a real accurate number? Again, that's based on census estimates, but do we think that seems accurate, and would we want to explore that a little bit more?
It looks like the total number of housing units occupied has gone down. Does
Yeah.
that mean that there are unoccupied housing units?
That could be.
Okay.
And that would be something I think we'd want to look at to see if that's accurate.
Seems like a significant number.
It's a pretty significant number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So again, when we get into some of those smaller numbers, like, the number of units there, like between 128 and 99, is that really accurate? Is that a good reflection, or is it more of the estimate because that's what tends to happen in communities. So, but that's something that we can work with the assessor to make some determinations on some of those things as well. I always think that the method of travel, transportation to work, is interesting on slide 14. So 87% of those that are employed and drive to have transportation to work use their own personal vehicle. They drive alone. A few carpool and use public transportation and walk, and then 4% work at home. For those who do travel, it looks like on the next page, the travel time. People who have a shorter commute, that seems to have risen a little bit, the less than 15 minutes, but also those between 30 and 45 seems to have gone up a little bit, so.
So where is this data from?
Yeah, these are all from census data.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's really, and then we get into the joint meeting summary, but so that's some of the initial data that we've been collecting. And again, these will be things that we can talk about some things now, and we can continue talking about this as we go forward. So I don't even had a chance to study it, and there's
Any questions right now?
Yeah. But if you do, and if there are things that you want to know more about, or something that you're wondering about that we did reflect on these slides, we may have that data still anyway. So are there things that you'd be interested in knowing?
When you commented on the number of rentals versus
Yeah.
non-rentals and why that is was of interest, is that out of I'd say out of the norm with comparable communities that you've
I
worked
would say
in?
it's
Is
a
that
little high,
pretty
yeah,
much?
for owner occupied. Yeah, in the 90s, I think that's high. And it might suggest that that for folks who do, for whatever reason, need or want to have a different type of home ownership, that they might not find it here.
Mhm.
That if there are young professionals that are interested in coming into the area, that there may not be anything for them at this
Mhm.
point. And that there's older folks who say, you know what, I want to have a little bit more freedom, a little bit more flexibility to do some different things. They may not find that here either, so it might just be something to
Right,
look
yeah,
at.
I had a coworker who was looking for, I mean, she came into town from out of town, and she was
Yeah.
looking for someplace close into Detroit, and she wasn't familiar with the area, and I suggested here, and
Yeah.
she couldn't find anything at the time, I know. She said there was just nothing that they could show her that was a rental,
Right.
and that was a couple of years ago.
Right. And then the flip side of that, I think, is that people might suggest that having such a high level of home ownership means that your neighborhoods are very stable.
Mhm.
And that probably is largely true as well. Although not always the case. I'm sure that there are always those that, some people take better care of their homes than other people do. And so that's not always a necessarily the only indicator of neighborhood stability or quality of neighborhoods.
Mhm.
But certainly people in this community do take pride in their homes and in their neighborhoods, and that shows as you drive up or walk up and down. They are, so that'll be something to look at
Okay.
a little bit. Yeah.
Any questions from?
Is there a way to get a little more clarity on that difference between occupied and maybe not occupied? Where
Yes. Yeah.
since the number changed so dramatically. It's still a
Right.
guesstimate, but
Mhm.
at least you'll know if there's a high percentage of unoccupied.
Seems like there should be some, well, I guess you don't always know if something's unoccupied based on how well it's being cared for, code violations or anything like that. Just,
But the
Yeah.
number dropped. I mean, it's an
right,
estimate.
it's a large,
Right.
yeah, it's a significant number there,
Yeah, it's
so-
over 100 units, which
Which-
seems like a lot in 5 years to just disappear.
Right, and it
So
would
it's
seem like
probably
that would-
not all just housing stock that's no longer here.
Right, may or may not be noticeable, but, yeah, surveying the neighborhood, people would know. Okay.
Yeah. questions or anything else?
I have a question.
Yeah.
On the housing one,
Mhm.
what's the difference between detached and attached?
Detached would be just like the single-family homes that you would see in the neighborhoods, and then the attached would be if there's 2 units side by side. So,
So like the townhouses on
11 Mile.
11 Mile.
would be
Mhm.
an example.
Yes.
Or the townhouses along Evergreen.
Evergreen.
Right, that whole stretch.
Yes, it's stretched there as well.
Good question.
It was one that I had. Where is it? For the chart now. Oh, transportation method of travel. It's 2015 as opposed to, it'd be interesting to see that in comparison with previous, unless this is just like a duplication of the chart example. No,
And
method
this
of
is-
travel.
Yeah. and I think
Interesting to
this
see
is-
where that's going.
I agree, because I don't think, I can't remember when the bus stop was put in on Southfield Road, but I think it was
Nice.
after the last master plan. And so that was something,
It
and that
was.
was something that I was interested in seeing. I thought, I wonder if that has risen since the last time. And this may be just because it's an estimate, that it's not
Mhm.
reflecting what's actually happening here, that if it's an estimate, it may be based on what had been previously, the previous methods, and not necessarily recognizing that a change happened here
Right,
that
right.
could impact an additional mode of travel.
It may influence more the ability of people to come to the neighborhood for work or in the area, or versus people using it as a mode to start and commute to work themselves
Yeah.
from
So
the
that may be able
neighborhood
to help
itself,
us
so,
with some of that data too.
so.
Jill, in terms of the transportation, you
Mhm.
know, if we're looking at public transportation smart, are we also going to be looking at the, you know, Uber and Lyft and all those things?
Ride
too?
sharing.
Yeah, ride sharing.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
good point. And does that count as,
And how, yeah, how does that, is that
Where does
other
that
means,
fall?
or are we talking other means like skateboards?
Be interesting. I mean, I know you see, I see it a lot I see it a lot downtown, but
Ride sharing or skateboarding?
in Detroit, skateboarding.
Scooters?
Skateboarding.
Yeah.
People bringing their skateboards
Oh,
down
yeah.
to move, to commute around. I mean,
yeah,
Longboards.
I don't know if they're actually,
They're longboards.
Longboards are better travel boards,
It's true.
so-
the things you learn.
So what, if any analysis is going to be done of business data about businesses?
that'll be part of the market assessment. And Chesapeake Group will they do a business survey and a resident survey, and then they also do a focus group where we'll bring in, and the focus group will have not only businesses, usually does a couple different sessions, and we'll coordinate on some dates, probably early October, I think. And that would be, usually he'll do one with businesses, and then there's always one with property owners, realtors, if we can get folks from the major employers, so, but certainly the schools would be one. Maybe somebody from the Southfield Chamber of Commerce. We'll kind of tap into some of those other resources that might have not only a local perspective, but maybe a little bit broader too. Just to have kind of a one-on-one conversation about people's perceptions, and then some of the things that are really happening on the street that maybe we can't get data from necessarily.
Yeah.
And that information is, just to follow up, is usually when we collect it and compile it and report back, the folks that participate in those, we don't say exactly what they said, so that gives them a little bit of ability to feel free to share things, but then just sort of to summarize and synthesize some of those things and provide some assessment and direction on what maybe could be taken from some of those discussions.
So as part of the Southfield Road, you said the walk down the business
Mhm.
district, and does that include records, like pictorial records, that can be compared against, let's say, 5 years ago, the appearance of, or that sort of judgment?
Yeah,
or is
no,
it-
we didn't do that before. So with
So-
that, the downtown, like the corridor, we didn't do that the last time. So,
Mhm.
and I don't think the last time that the DDA plan was done, it was done either, so.
Right. I was just curious
I don't
as
think
to
they ever
whether
did
we have a
anything
record
like-
to see how things are changing. I think while you're living in the community,
Mhm.
things happen gradually and you don't always notice until maybe a
Yeah.
later point, and if there's a dramatic change, and that could be positive or negative, but we certainly want to stay on top of that in
Right.
case there's trends that need to be steered in a different direction.
Yeah, well, I think this will tee that up for the next 5-year review.
Mm-hmm.
And because we'll include a lot of pictures, and we'll talk about what's working,
Mhm.
and we'll highlight some of the good things, and then we'll show what needs work and some of the things that need to be improved.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some, I went to a GIS training at Oakland County last week, 2 weeks ago, recently. And there's a lot of really cool things that we can do with the mapping software that we can get through Oakland County. So,
Mhm.
and that is one of the things. It's like survey 1, 2, 3 or something like that. And literally,
Right.
you take your your tablet and you ding, 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 and you can capture all sorts of information. So,
And
I've
that's
been
probably what
inspired.
we'll do when we
Right.
do the data collection, is we'll probably do that. We used something similar for an assessment that we did for Paint Creek Trailways, where we were looking specifically there at barrier-free, we were doing a barrier-free assessment. And so we were able to, like on the map, just plop it down. We actually
Yes.
used our phones, and we were able to just say this, this, this. We had some predefined categories. While we were out in the field, we noticed that there were some additional categories that we wanted to add, so we were able to do that. And then when we got back, we're like, oh, we really should have categorized that too. So, but
Yeah,
it's nice
fun
because
with
you are
maps.
able to,
Right?
yeah. And our GIS department is awesome. So,
Can we bring her along?
oh yeah, oh yeah, yes.
She was the girl that was with us for the joint meeting, correct?
No,
No.
actually,
Oh, okay. Well, well.
yeah. I've got
But, okay. Cool.
But
Fun
yes,
stuff.
so we have some opportunities to use mapping
Okay.
to show and analyze some of the other data. So we'll probably do that with some of the housing data. We may look at looking at from a map standpoint. Can we tell neighborhoods and what the age of the housing is? I mean, you already may know that sort of just because you've lived here for so long, but to see it on a map and then maybe overlay. Are we able to tell from some of the census data, the age of the householders? And are we able to maybe draw out some assessments from that? So yeah, we get kind of excited when we start talking about data and maps and all the cool things that we can do. So those will be coming. Yeah. Good. All right. So the next couple of pages are just a real brief summary from our joint meeting that we had back in August with the City Council, the Planning Commission, and the DDA. And it was, yes, just those three groups. So the first image, the first couple are the summary of strengths and weaknesses. What we did, you remember, we had the Post-it note exercise where we asked you to consider the strengths and weaknesses of the city in terms of housing, the commercial corridor, recreation, and the village center specifically. And you'll see then we did those by green and red. So the green were the good things, the strengths, the red were the weaknesses, and then we did a bolder color for the ones that got the highest number of items. So for housing, majority of responses indicated there's a good variety of housing, which I think will be interesting to see, like, really, what does that mean exactly? That they all look a little bit different, might be, and so that might be a character issue. But functionally, do we have a variety of housing? Not probably as much. Overwhelmingly, we have single-family homes. Most of those are either ranches or we have some colonials too. So there's a little bit of variety in terms of that. But does that meet the needs of the residents of the city? That's something we can look at.
Seems to be, I would just interject, yeah, with the different styles of houses from different eras.
Yeah.
There were different, I don't want to say, well, the lifestyle was different, and the situation was different, so there's a variation there, but I would tend to agree
Yeah.
that you'll have maybe more variety of appearance within a given year for construction, but maybe not so much in terms of what's going on inside.
And then in terms of the housing, and I think it's probably more of neighborhood really, was that street improvements are needed, and we know that, and the city's talking about that and making an effort to take some action on that. In the commercial corridor, people responded that there are convenience goods and services, but that there's only a few restaurants, and there's a lack of new development. In terms of recreation, parks are clean. There's a good variety of events and activities. There's a lack of opportunities or facilities for biking, primarily, well, between facilities as well as around the community itself. And then in the village center, opportunities for development and redevelopment, a lack of downtown, and it's not walkable in our village center. And those are things that we know, and we're striving to improve upon. The next two slides represent the opportunities and challenges in each of those 4 areas, and then the strategies that were suggested when we had broken out into those groups. So these will be some of the things that we're going to keep in mind as we're going through the planning document, and looking at goals and objectives, looking at strategies, looking at the future land use map, with these things in mind, in terms of the things that we are identifying as opportunities as well as challenges. So we'll probably have another more concise summary of this for you, but we just wanted you to kind of get an idea of what it looks like now. So again, the next steps are analysis. We'll do the corridor and downtown, the market analysis, and parking and traffic assessment. And then in terms of the public input, you will see the Picture This app launched shortly, and as well as some surveys, and then the focus group that I talked about a little while ago. On the next page, you'll see what the Picture This looks like. And if I had internet and projection capabilities, I would demonstrate it. But when you click on it, you'll get to this page, and then you'll click on a little button, and it'll take you to what you'll see on the next page. And what this is another map. And it's a tool that's really kind of fun, and it allows people to respond in a visual way to the question, what do you like best about your community, and what do you think could be improved? It lets people take pictures, and you could take a picture with your phone and upload it, and it'll tag it right to the map, and so we'll be able to see where people are responding and the things that they like and the things that they think need work. You can also do it from your computer, so if you had pictures in your computer and you went on to your browser on your laptop or tablet, you can upload them that way as well. And you can type in an address if you have it. If you were, maybe you did it earlier and then you wanted to come back in later and do it, you can tag it on the map, or you can type in an address. So it's kind of a fun way to reach a different group of people who might not necessarily come to a meeting or fill out a regular online survey. We know that folks, well, it depends on the community. Some are getting a little tired of surveys, we think. So we're trying to find either a very specific set of questions and making them very short, rather than what we've maybe done in the past with a longer set of questions. And so I think when we get ready to do that portion, and we'll probably have some conversations about that at the next time we get together, what do you want to know from the community specifically? And I think if we can do that, both with the regular survey that we're going to do for the master plan and for the recreation plan, which will probably be its own survey, that I think we can get more people to participate in that if we can be more clear about what we're asking for and really focus in on what we want to know.
So is this Picture This, is this intended to be just like information gathering, or is it sharing as well? In other words, if I went and input some information or a picture here and a comment regarding it, is everybody else able to scroll through this and see?
Yes.
So this
Yeah.
could be positive, this could be negative. If somebody sees something that's bothered them, and then let's hope people are being discreet with how they identify things and realize you've got neighbors to be kind to. And
I know. People do kind of worry about it, but we've done it in several communities. Some have been extremely populated with images. I think the city of Ann Arbor, when we did their sign ordinance update, which we're just wrapping up with them, they really jumped on it, and we had a lot of responses on it. Some of the other communities that we've used it for master plans, we haven't gotten huge responses, but I would say that in wherever we've used them, I can't think of anybody who posted anything that was really either super nasty or inappropriate. So
Good.
I would not expect that would happen here.
Yeah,
Okay.
we used some similar when I was in Hampshire like 1,000 years ago, and yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was new at that point, right?
Uh-huh.
So we were pretty stoked with like the 150 so responses that we got, but there wasn't a lot of bashing. It was more like,
Yeah.
hey, this is a really dark underpass. Like, can we do something
Can we
really
fix
cool?
this?
Like,
Yeah.
what can we do? You know, we're
Yeah.
a bunch of artists.
Mhm.
You know, so
Right.
there was
Opportunity.
not a lot of like bash your neighbor type of things, and if it was,
Uh-huh.
it wasn't very overt.
Mhm.
So
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing that's kind of cool is that people can even post a picture from another community. So say they see something in another community, and they think, oh, that's really awesome. It would be really cool to have that in Lathrup. They could do the same thing from there, and then it'll show up on the map,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can get an idea of where it doesn't have to just be tied to here.
Mm-hmm.
So we can encourage people to think beyond our borders if they need to or want to.
So this is an app that you got on your
It's
phone?
it's not an app that you would download, but it's a browser based. So it would be something that people could put, you know, maybe if you open it in your phone and you bookmark it, then you can come back and keep using it from there. But people don't have to download an actual app onto their phone.
Can you use it on the computer?
You can use it on the computer, and you can use it on a phone or a tablet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, at my workplace, they've done some things like this with a theme, inspiration. I think the last one we did was
Yeah.
inspiration. What inspires you? And you had people coming from all different
Cool.
directions with things. And there was a lot of family, there's a lot of nature.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, some nice environments generally.
That's cool.
I wonder how many pictures of deer we're going to get on this app. Just
We
saying.
had, in one community, there was a person that we were at the, I think it was at the open house, and we were explaining how to use the app, the platform, and she started to get really excited, but she had also told me about this, the dog park that was in the community, and so I noticed then a couple of days later that there were a lot of pictures of the dogs in the community. It was really, I was like, oh, good, she figured out how to use it and responded, and that was neat. And then in another community, it looks like they had a lot of good responses, and most of them, probably a dozen to 15, were from the same family, because you could see they were all wearing the same clothes in every picture. But it was so cute because they went everywhere in the community together as a family, and they posted pictures outside of City Hall, and they did some pictures here and some pictures at the park, and it was kind of a nice little. I'm sure they
had
really
fun with it.
They
Yeah,
did.
If whether it was deliberately for that or if
Yeah.
it was just representative of
Yeah.
this is what we do in
Yeah.
our community.
So it was nice. So it's kind of a fun little tool to use.
Cool.
is that something that is, so we'll be able to put the picture of this, like, that app on our comprehensive page website?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
All
and
right.
I'll have that for you probably tomorrow.
Ah,
The link, maybe we'll have the link be live.
yeah.
And then you can advertise it on the newsletter and get the word out, and then people can start populating. That's great. Okay, well, if there are any questions for Jill regarding any of these items that we just talked about, if not, we'll move on to the next items on the agenda.
Good to go.
Okay. Old business, if there's anything that anyone would like to ask or comment. I started speaking with Susie about the status of the gas station and what was going on there. Anything to share? Anything you can share for the benefit of the
Yes.
General Commission?
Of course. I'm gonna make you wait though for the gas station information.
Oh, okay.
So we have, one of our historic district commissioners, approached me a few months ago, or earlier this summer, about having his students at Fair State work on a project, an architectural design studio for his third-year architectural students, and they wanted to focus on the school. So talked to the property owners. They're happy to do that. And as he was talking to his colleagues at Fair State, one of them said, "Well, I have some seniors that need a senior project, and what do you think? That sounds pretty awesome. Would Lathrup Village have us twice?" So yes, of course we would. And so they're actually going to be coming down on Friday. So if anyone from the Planning Commission would like to join me, we're going to be sitting down with the students Friday morning. And they're going to come down around 10 o'clock and meet with myself, property owners, and a couple others to kind of get a feel for what we'd like to see at the school, what have maybe some of the challenges been. We're going to tour the school, and they're also going to take some time to walk around the community. We are anticipating at least 3 different design concepts. There's 17 students in this particular class. 10 of them have chosen this particular project, which is a pretty sizable amount for a student project. So one of the concepts that we are going to get from them is a civic center kind of complex to include City Hall and the school, which I know has been done before, but new students, new ideas. So, and then they're going to give us a couple other concepts to be determined at this point. But so this is really exciting to see. I like student projects. I'm interested to see what they come up with. So,
Is anyone from the Historic District Commission participating, or have they been invited? Are they aware of this as well?
they will be aware of this.
Okay.
So I'm securing all of my community stakeholders.
I happen to
if you
be
will.
off Friday, so I might just be able to do that.
That would be fabulous.
So-
I would love to have you join us. I think it'll be
Okay.
good times. So, this will very likely not be the first time we have students come down and visit, and I would like for them to come and at least present their findings to the Planning Commission and maybe do a joint meeting, and they can present it to everyone. So, so that's thing number 1. In terms of businesses, Jagged Fork is they're open. It's a soft opening. They're kind of working out the kinks, as every restaurant should. And so feel free to pop in if you see cars there. Pop in. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, they did a phenomenal job. It's been a really long time since I walked into a brand new restaurant, and I want them to come and design my house. So it's beautiful. They gutted the building, so it's a dramatic improvement. They are going to have a official grand opening sometime the first week in October. We're just waiting for them to pin down their date, and I will let everyone know as soon as that is finalized. No liquor license to start, though they are working on it. And we'll see how fast
When we say they're still working on it, is that?
They had some fabulous vacation problems, I guess is a nice way to describe it. There's a handful of partners. They were not all in the country all at the same time to complete the paperwork. So,
Okay. Simple as that.
So, so sad we're all overseas. But so they're working on finalizing the paperwork, and so they're going to operate for a little bit without a liquor license, but I have no fear they're still moving forward with that process. So go on and have a delicious. Remember, they're only open for breakfast and lunch, so they will 7 to 3. So check it out; it'll be exciting. They are going to be hiring 20 new staff. So,
Wow. Okay.
which is that's a mighty fine number, I'd say. The the former George's soccer location, they are aware of what they need to do. They have not pulled any permits at this point, so, stay tuned. And the question on everyone's mind is BP. So they submitted plans a week ago, Monday. They submitted their engineering plans, and we're waiting for a few of their final clearances for demolition. And so hopefully, and they do need to resubmit actual building plans, but they are moving forward. They've got an extremely tight time frame to get all the underground work completed. So we'll see.
I trust they're trying to do that then yet this before winter.
Yes. I have spoken to our engineer. He's already started reviewing the plans, so I'll remain cautiously optimistic. I mean, they're not in. They are also under no delusions that they're going to be open, anytime very quickly.
Mhm.
So, I had sent them a reminder email and letter, and was quite happy with the response, the timeliness of their response.
Mhm.
So they're moving forward. We will see some action, hopefully sooner rather than later. Let's see, we talked about the bike path for a split second. So we have submitted our application. We will not be considered for funding in 2019. Basically due to thresholds, right? Like funding thresholds. SEMCOG has significantly more leeway with how they award funds as opposed to how MDOT awards funds. So in my conversations with our MDOT project lead, he suggested that we just wait until the round of funding that starts in January, because that's SEMCOG funding that those projects get funded first. So
Okay.
fingers crossed that will still happen. We've put in there that we're going to have a couple bike repair kiosks in addition to some wayfinding signage, and so pretty good. And then I will be attending the Michigan Association of Planning Conference. I know Anna's going to come. Is anyone else joining us? Anyone?
Jill, you're there.
Jill's hosting a reception, as far as I've been told.
I was going to invite you later.
A little birdie might have mentioned
Yes.
that. So we're going to go and we're going to learn and come back inspired, and
Oh, yeah.
it's going to be good times. And then I will also be attending the Oakland County's One Stop Ready Show Community Property Showcase on November 1st. So that's a pretty big networking event for developers, real estate agents, communities, and we get to pick a few properties and market them, and hopefully drum up some business. So that's
Great.
That's what I got for you guys.
Thank you.
Mhm.
We kind of slipped right into general communication, I think.
Yeah,
But we're good.
you like
We're
that?
good, that's fine.
Oh, we did have
Jill,
one more
you?
thing. So in addition to the MAP conference, I wanted to just let you know that was happening next week. Along with the Michigan Municipal League is having their annual conference in Detroit the same days.
I know, isn't that
Ah.
weird? That's weird.
Yes.
We've already had this conversation.
I know, and
before.
it sounds like everybody was just like, ooh, we missed that. So there are training opportunities, both locally and a little bit farther away. I believe that in addition to those two fine opportunities, that also Main Street Oakland County is having some kind of
Main Street Oakland County is having something. If they are
And I
having like
also-
a DDA refresh or something.
Yes, so
along those lines.
if people are interested in that, we can get training information out. I'm doing a session at the conference on Thursday about housing. And it's sort of a follow-up to the article that was in the Michigan Planner magazine that just came out, so that's kind of cool. And also, October is Community Planning Month, so be planning ahead. We'll have a couple little, we're not going to go overboard, but we're going to do a couple little things just to raise awareness about planning and the importance of it in our communities, and trying to highlight what you all do for your communities and the volunteer time that you put into this. It's sometimes a thankless job, but we want to recognize you for that. But we'll do that next month. And we also are going to get going on the capital improvement plan well in advance of when we need it for budgeting purposes. So we'd like to start doing that as soon as next month. And so we wanted to know if anybody's interested in being on a subcommittee from Planning Commission.
Well, so I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so before you all jump at Jill's request to be on the CIP committee, okay, because I know you're all itching.
Super fun.
Sit on your hands for a minute. So we actually, at the beginning of the year when we first started talking about having these joint meetings, we chose the 5th Tuesday of months, right? I know I kind of messed with our schedule with the August thing, and I apologize. But so technically, October would be there's a 5th Tuesday in October. That would be the 29th. So that would be, right now I have that penciled in as a joint meeting date. So you guys should I'll put it in ink.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to make you guys meet in December, which I think is another 5th Tuesday month. Yeah, I'm not making you guys meet on New Year's Eve.
Is that a 5:30 start? I have it in my calendar as 5:30.
I will probably actually do. No, it's not going to be quite at 5:30. It might. I've learned my lesson. We need to work some dinner time networking in, right? So maybe it might be like dinner 6 to 6:30, and then start the program. But 5th Tuesday, the 29th.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'll do the capital improvement plan subcommittee. Happy to volunteer.
Thanks.
Sure.
How many do we need on the committee? Once again,
I'm sure Jill would have as many as she could
you
get.
can participate.
2.
Two.
2 is good.
Are the meetings in the evenings, or are they?
Meetings
likely
are
to
whenever we can get them
get people together.
together. Yes.
Okay. I think I can do that as well. So,
Okay.
Great.
and it's been a little while since I've been on that committee, so I think I'll jump in again.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Scott?
Scott, any legal updates?
Nothing for me.
Okay. That said, I think we've reached the end of our agenda, so we have a motion to adjourn. We'll entertain it at this time.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.